Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Ship Horizon, watching the stars through the main screen. His hands gripped the rail as he looked at the empty space ahead. Today would change everything for humanity. Today, they would meet aliens for the first time. "Captain, we're getting signals from the meeting point," said Lieutenant Karen Bell from her station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. Everyone on the ship felt it. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The stars disappeared, replaced by something that made Jake's breath catch in his throat. 3 massive ships hung in space, each one different from the others. The first looked like it was made of crystal, catching light and throwing it back in rainbow colors. The second seemed to be made of flowing metal that moved like water. The third was the strangest of all. It looked like it was made of gas and light, with no solid parts at all. "My God," whispered Dr. Mary Foster from behind Jake. She was the ship's science officer, and Jake had never seen her look so amazed. "They're beautiful." Ambassador Lisa Carter stepped forward. She wore her best diplomatic uniform, and her face showed calm confidence. But Jake knew her well enough to see the worry in her eyes. "Captain Morrison, please open a channel," Lisa said. "It's time to make history." Jake nodded to his communications officer. "Channel open, Ambassador." Lisa took a deep breath. "This is Ambassador Lisa Carter of Earth, representing humanity and the United Earth Government. We come in peace, seeking friendship and understanding with our galactic neighbors." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the screen changed, showing 3 alien beings. Jake had seen the pictures from the robot probes, but seeing them live was different. The first alien looked almost like a person, but was covered in smooth scales that changed color as it moved. Its eyes were large and golden. The second was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished metal. The third was the hardest to look at. It seemed to be made of moving gas, with lights that pulsed inside its body. The scaled alien spoke first. Its voice came through the translator as cold and formal. "I am High Counselor Vexthara of the Zephyrian Empire. We represent the Galactic Senate." The metal-skinned alien nodded. "I am Speaker Kethamori Prime of the Crystal Collective." The gas being's voice sounded like wind through caves. "I am Flow of Thoughts Veltar of the Eternal Drift." Lisa smiled and bowed slightly. "It is an honor to meet you all. Humanity has dreamed of this day for centuries. We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." But something was wrong. Jake could feel it in the way the aliens looked at them. Their expressions were hard to read, but there was no warmth there, no welcome. "High Counselor." Vexthara leaned forward. "Tell us, humans, what do you know of your own history?" Lisa looked confused. "Our history? We know much about our past. We've studied our world and our people for thousands of years. Your recent history," Vexthara said, "the last few hundred years, your wars, your weapons, your expansion." Jake felt his stomach tighten. This wasn't going the way they had hoped. Lisa kept her voice calm. "We've had conflicts, yes, but we've also made great progress. We've ended many diseases, fed our hungry, and reached for the stars. We're not perfect, but we're trying to be better." The 3 aliens looked at each other. Jake couldn't tell what they were thinking, but it didn't seem good. Speaker Kethamori Prime spoke next. "In the past 100 of your years, you have fought 2 global wars. You have created weapons that can destroy entire cities. You have polluted your world and driven many species to death. But we've also stopped those wars, Lisa said quickly. We've learned from our mistakes. We've started to heal our world and protect our animals. We've come together as one people to reach the stars. Have you? Asked Flow of Thought's Veltar. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Or have you simply found new ways to fight, new places to conquer? Jake stepped forward. Ambassador, Carter speaks the truth. Humanity has made mistakes, but we've learned from them. We've come here in peace. High Counselor Vexithara turned its golden eyes on Jake. Captain Morrison, your ship carries enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Is this how your people come in peace? We carry weapons for defense, Jake said. Any ship traveling in unknown space would do the same. Would they? Vexithara asked. Most species in the galaxy travel without weapons. Most species settle their differences with words, not violence. Dr. Foster moved closer to Jake. If I may ask, she said, how long have you been watching us? The three aliens were quiet for a moment. Then Kethmori Prime answered. Long enough to know what you are. What we are? Lisa asked. We're explorers. We're seekers of knowledge and friendship. You are predators, Vexithara said flatly. You are a species that solves problems through violence. You expand by taking what belongs to others. You consume resources without thought for tomorrow. Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced it down. Getting angry would only prove their point. That's not fair, Lisa said. Every species has its flaws. But we also have great strengths. We create art and music. We care for our sick and old. We dream of better futures. So did the others, Veltar said quietly. Others? Dr. Foster asked. What others? But the aliens didn't answer. Instead, Vexithara stood up. This meeting is over. We will contact you soon with our decision. Decision. About what? Jake demanded. About what must be done to protect the galaxy from humanity. The screen went black. The alien ships began to move away, their engines lighting up the darkness. Wait! Lisa called out. We need to talk more. We need to understand each other. But it was too late. The ships jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared, leaving the horizon alone in empty space. Jake turned to Lisa. What just happened? Lisa shook her head, looking confused and worried. I don't know. They seem to have already made up their minds about us before we even spoke. Dr. Foster was working at her station, checking the ship's sensors. Captain, their ships were scanning us the entire time. Not just our ship, us. They were taking readings of our bodies, our brains, everything. Why would they do that? Jake asked. I don't know, Foster said. But they were looking for something specific. Like they were checking to see if we matched something in their records. Jake looked back at the empty space where the alien ships had been. Set course for Earth. We need to report this to command. As the horizon turned toward home, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just failed its most important test. But he didn't understand what the test had been, or why they had been expected to fail it. The aliens had called them predators. They had spoken of others who had come before, and they had looked at humanity with what could only be called fear. What did they know that humanity didn't? And what were they planning to do about it? 3 weeks after the first contact meeting, Senator Alex Stone sat in his office in Geneva, looking out at the Swiss mountains. The morning sun made the snow on the peaks shine like gold, but Alex couldn't enjoy the view. His mind was on the message that had arrived an hour ago, The aliens were coming back. Alex's assistant, Maria Santos, knocked on his door. "Senator Stone, the president is on line 1. The other world leaders are waiting for the emergency conference." Alex nodded and picked up the phone. "This is Senator Stone." "Alex," came the voice of President Helen Taylor. "Have you read the alien message yet?" "I'm reading it now," Alex said, looking at his computer screen. The words made his blood run cold. "This can't be real." "I'm afraid it is," the president said. "They're giving us 24 hours to respond." Alex read the message again, hoping he had misunderstood it the first time. But the words were clear, translated into perfect English by the alien computers. "To the humans of Earth," the message began, "the Galactic Senate has made its decision regarding your species. For the safety of all civilized worlds, humanity must accept immediate containment within your solar system. You will not be allowed to travel beyond the edge of your sun's influence. You will not be permitted to contact other species. You will remain in your system until such time as you prove you are no longer a threat to galactic peace." Alex put down the phone and called for his security chief. "Get me Commander Rick Hayes. Tell him to come to my office right now." While he waited, Alex kept reading. The message went on to list humanity's crimes. They talked about Earth's wars, its pollution, its treatment of other species on the planet. They showed pictures of battlefields, of destroyed cities, of animals that had gone extinct. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what came next. "Humanity has shown the same patterns as previous dangerous species," the message continued. "Your rapid technological growth, your aggressive expansion, and your willingness to use violence to solve problems mark you as a threat to galactic stability. The Senate cannot allow another species like the predecessors to rise to power." Predecessors. That was the second time the aliens had mentioned them. Who were these predecessors? And why did the aliens think humans were like them? Commander Rick Hayes knocked on the door and entered. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his years in the military. His face was serious as he sat down. "Senator, my people have been watching the alien ships," Rick said. "There are more of them now, a lot more." "How many?" Alex asked. "Our satellites count at least 50 ships hiding behind the moon. There might be more we can't see." Alex felt sick. "They're preparing for war." "It looks that way," Rick said. "But there's something else. Dr. Foster sent a report from her research team. They've been studying the data from the first contact meeting." Alex leaned forward. "What did they find?" Rick opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "The aliens weren't just scanning our people during that meeting. They were scanning our entire solar system. We found traces of their technology on our outer planets, on our space stations, even on some of our satellites. For how long?" "That's the scary part," Rick said. "Some of this technology is old, really old. We think they've been watching us for decades, maybe longer." Alex stood up and walked to his window. The mountains looked the same as always, but everything felt different now. They've been spying on us for years, and now they want to lock us up in our own solar system. "There's more," Rick said. "The scanning technology they used on our people. It was looking at our DNA, our brain patterns, like they were comparing us to something in their database." "The predecessors," Alex said quietly. "That's what Dr. Foster thinks, too. She's trying to find out more about them, but it's not easy. The aliens aren't sharing information." Alex's phone rang. It was the president, again. "Alex, we've got a problem," President Taylor said. "The Chinese and Russians are talking about fighting. They think we should reject the alien demands and prepare for war." "What do you think?" Alex asked. I think we need more information before we make any big decisions. But we don't have much time. The aliens want an answer in 18 hours. After Alex hung up, he turned to Rick. What are our chances if we fight? Rick was quiet for a long moment. Not good. Their ships are bigger and more advanced than ours. They have weapons we don't understand. And there are a lot more of them than us. But you think we should fight anyway? I think we should have the choice, Rick said. No one has the right to lock us up in our own home, no matter what they're afraid of. Alex nodded. He understood how Rick felt, but he also understood the weight of the decision they had to make. If they chose wrong, it could mean the end of humanity. Get me Dr. Foster, Alex said. I want to know everything she's learned about these predecessors. An hour later, Dr. Mary Foster sat in Alex's office with her research team. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. Senator, we've been working around the clock to understand the alien message, she said. The references to the predecessors are the key to everything. What have you found? Alex asked. Dr. Foster opened her laptop. We've been analyzing the alien languages and their historical references. The predecessors were a species that existed about 50,000 years ago. According to the alien records we could access, they were incredibly advanced. More advanced than the current aliens? Rick asked. Much more advanced, Foster said. But that's not why the aliens fear them. They fear them because of what they did with their technology. Alex leaned forward. What did they do? They conquered most of the galaxy, Foster said quietly. In less than 1,000 years, they took control of hundreds of star systems. They enslaved other species or destroyed them completely. Rick whistled, softly. No wonder the aliens are scared. But here's the strange part, Foster continued. The predecessors disappeared suddenly. One day they were ruling the galaxy, and the next day they were gone. No one knows what happened to them. Maybe they destroyed themselves, Alex suggested. Maybe, Foster said. But there's something else. The aliens aren't just afraid that we might become like the predecessors. They think we are the predecessors. Alex stared at her. That's impossible. You said they lived 50,000 years ago. Not exactly the same, Foster said, but related. The alien scans of our people found something interesting. Our DNA has markers that match samples from predecessor ruins. We're not the same species, but we might be their descendants. The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Rick spoke. So the aliens think we're the children of their worst enemies? That's exactly what they think, Foster said. And they're not going to take any chances with us. Alex walked back to his window. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky red and orange. Somewhere up there, alien ships were waiting for humanity's answer. What do we tell them? Alex asked. We tell them the truth, Rick said. We tell them we're not our ancestors. We tell them we want peace. And if they don't believe us, Rick stood up, his face hard. Then we show them what humans do when someone tries to cage us. Alex knew Rick was right. Humanity couldn't accept being locked up in their own solar system, no matter what their ancestors might have done. But he also knew that rejecting the alien demands might mean war, a war that humanity might not be able to win. As night fell over Geneva, Alex made his decision. He picked up his phone and called the president. Helen, he said, tell the aliens we reject their demands. Tell them humanity chooses freedom. Dr. Mary Foster stood in her laboratory at the European Space Research Center, surrounded by computers and alien artifacts. Her team had been working for 72 hours straight since Earth rejected the Galactic Senate's demands. Coffee cups and food containers covered every surface, but no one cared about the mess. They were racing against time to understand humanity's true origins. "Dr. Foster, I've got something," called Professor Carl Baker from across the room. He was the team's language expert, and his desk was covered with printouts of alien text. "I've been working on the predecessor language samples we found in the alien databases." Mary walked over to him, stepping carefully around the cables that connected all their equipment. "What did you find?" Carl pointed to a screen, which showed symbols that looked like a mix of pictures and mathematical equations. "This is a predecessor text we managed to decode. It's some kind of historical record." Dr. Susan Wright, the team's physicist, joined them. She had dark circles under her eyes but looked excited. "Is it about their disappearance?" "Better than that," Carl said. "It's about their genetic experiments. Look at this section here." He pointed to a group of symbols. "This talks about something they called the Seed Project. They were taking their own DNA and mixing it with the DNA of other species they found on different worlds." Mary felt her heart beat faster. "They were creating hybrid species?" "That's what it looks like," Carl said. "But not just any hybrids. They were trying to create backup versions of themselves. Species that could carry on their abilities if something happened to them." Susan leaned closer to the screen. "Does it say what happened to these hybrid species?" Carl scrolled down through the text. "Some of them died out. Others were destroyed in wars. But a few survived and developed on their own." "Earth," Mary whispered. "They planted their DNA on Earth." "It makes sense," Susan said. "Earth was perfect for life, but it was far from the main part of the galaxy. If the predecessors wanted to hide a backup species, Earth would be a good place to do it." Mary walked back to her own computer and started typing. "If this is true, then we should be able to find proof in our own DNA. Not just the markers the aliens found, but actual predecessor genes." She pulled up the genetic scans the aliens had taken during the first contact meeting. The data was complex, but Mary had been studying it for weeks. "Here," she said, pointing to sections of the genetic code. "These sequences don't match anything else on Earth. They're not from any other species on our planet." Carl came over to look. "Could they be from the predecessors?" "There's only one way to find out," Mary said. She opened another program and started comparing the human genetic sequences to the predecessor samples they had found in the alien databases. The computer worked for several minutes, processing millions of genetic markers. Finally, the results appeared on the screen. Mary stared at the numbers, hardly believing what she saw. 94% match. "What does that mean?" Susan asked. "It means we're not just related to the predecessors," Mary said quietly. "We are predecessors, modified and changed over 50,000 years, but still carrying their basic genetic structure." The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Carl spoke. "No wonder the aliens are afraid of us." Mary nodded. "The predecessors nearly conquered the entire galaxy. They were incredibly smart, incredibly adaptable, and incredibly ruthless. If we have their genes, then we have their potential." "But we're not them," Susan said. "We've developed differently. We've learned from our mistakes." "Have we?" Mary asked. "Look at our history. Constant wars, rapid expansion, the drive to always reach further and take more. Maybe we're more like them than we want to admit." Her computer beeped, showing that more data had finished processing. Mary looked at the new results and felt her blood turn cold. "What is it?" Carl asked. "The genetic markers," Mary said. "They're not evenly distributed in the human population. Some people have more predecessor DNA than others." "How much more?" Susan asked. Mary checked the numbers again. In most humans, about 5% of their DNA comes directly from predecessor sources. But in some people, it's much higher, up to 20%. What does that mean? Carl asked. I don't know yet, Mary said, but I think we need to find out fast. She started searching through the human genetic database, looking for patterns. What she found made her hand shake. The people with higher predecessor DNA aren't random, she said. They're concentrated in certain families, certain bloodlines. Which families? Susan asked. Mary pulled up a list of names. Military leaders, explorers, scientists, politicians. People who take risks, who push boundaries, who refuse to accept limits. Carl looked at the list. People like Captain Morrison? Mary nodded. I ran his genetic scan from the first contact meeting. He has 18% predecessor DNA. And the aliens would have seen that in their scans, Susan said. That's why they were so afraid, Mary said. They weren't just looking at humans in general. They were looking at the specific humans on that ship. And they saw people who carried a lot of predecessor genes. The door to the laboratory opened, and Commander Rick Hayes walked in with 2 soldiers. His face was grim. Dr. Foster, we need to talk, he said. Mary saved her work and turned to face him. What's wrong? The aliens just sent another message, Rick said. They've given us 12 hours to surrender, or they'll start attacking our outer colonies. Jupiter Base? Susan asked. Rick nodded. Jupiter Base, the mining stations around Saturn, the research posts on Pluto, all of our people beyond Mars. Mary felt sick. How many people? About 50,000, Rick said. Including families, Carl stood up. We have to do something. We are, Rick said. We're preparing to fight. But first, I need to know what you've learned about these predecessors. Mary quickly explained what they had discovered about humanity's genetic heritage and the uneven distribution of predecessor DNA. Rick listened carefully, then asked, could these genes be activated somehow? Could people with high predecessor DNA develop abilities they don't normally have? I don't know, Mary said. Why do you ask? Rick looked uncomfortable. We've been getting strange reports from our military units. Soldiers performing better than they should be able to, pilots making impossible maneuvers, scientists solving problems that should take weeks to figure out. When did this start? Mary asked. Right after the first contact meeting, Rick said. At first we thought it was just adrenaline from meeting aliens, but it's getting stronger. Susan looked at her computer screen. What if the alien scans did something to us? What if they accidentally activated dormant predecessor genes? Mary felt a chill run down her spine. That would explain why the aliens are so scared. They didn't just find out we have predecessor DNA. They might have awakened it. Rick stepped closer. Dr. Foster, I need you to be completely honest with me. If these genes are being activated, what could happen? Mary looked at the genetic data on her screen, thinking about what the predecessors had been able to do. If the historical records are accurate, the predecessors were incredible. They could adapt to any environment, learn any skill, solve any problem. They were the perfect survival species. That doesn't sound so bad, Rick said. It's not the abilities that are dangerous, Mary said quietly. It's what they did with them. The predecessors didn't just explore the galaxy. They conquered it. They destroyed any species that got in their way. But we're not them, Carl said. We have different values, different ethics. Do we? Mary asked. What happens when humans feel threatened? What do we do when someone tries to limit us or control us? Rick understood. We fight. Mary nodded. The aliens know our history. They know what humans do when they're cornered. And now they think we're developing the abilities to do it on a galactic scale. Her computer beeped again. More results had come in from the genetic analysis. Mary looked at the screen and felt her world change. "What is it now?" Susan asked. Mary's voice was barely a whisper. "The predecessors didn't disappear 50,000 years ago." "What do you mean?" Rick demanded. Mary turned the screen so they could all see it. "I found traces of recent predecessor activity in the genetic samples, very recent." "How recent?" Carl asked. Mary checked the data again, hoping she was wrong. But the numbers were clear. "About 50 years ago," she said. "Someone with pure predecessor DNA was alive on Earth 50 years ago." The room was silent. Finally, Rick spoke. "Are they still alive?" Mary looked back at her screen, at the data that was rewriting everything they thought they knew about humanity. "I don't know," she said. "But if they are, then the aliens have a lot more to be afraid of than they realize." Captain Jake Morrison crouched behind a broken piece of space station wall, listening to the sounds of laser fire echoing through the corridors. The attack on Jupiter Base had started 6 hours ago, and the Galactic Senate forces were winning. "Captain, we've got movement in Corridor 7, whispered Lieutenant Karen Bell. She was pressed against the wall next to him, her weapon ready. Her uniform was torn and dirty, but her eyes were sharp and focused. Jake nodded and checked his watch. "Colonel Clark should be in position by now." Colonel Tony Clark was leading a group of Marines through the lower levels of the station, trying to reach the main power core. If they could shut down the station's shields, the alien forces would have to retreat or risk being caught in an explosion. But that was a big if. Jake peered around the corner and saw 3 alien soldiers moving down the corridor. They were Zephyrians, covered in those color-changing scales. Their weapons looked like they could cut through steel. 2 on the left, 1 on the right, Jake whispered to Karen. "On 3. But before he could count, something strange happened. His mind suddenly became very clear, like someone had wiped fog from his eyes. He could see exactly where the aliens would move, what they would do next, how fast they would react. Without thinking, Jake jumped out from behind the wall and fired 3 quick shots. All 3 aliens fell before they could even raise their weapons. Karen stared at him. "How did you do that?" Jake stared at his hands. He felt different, like his body was moving faster than his mind could follow. "I don't know." They moved down the corridor toward the station's command center. Jake's radio crackled. "Morrison, this is Clark. We've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" Jake asked. "The kind where there are about 50 aliens between us and—" "The power core. We're pinned down in Section 12. Jake looked at Karen. "Can we get to them?" Before Karen could answer, Jake's mind started working again in that strange, clear way. He could see the layout of the station like it was drawn in his head. He could see where the aliens were, where Clark's team was trapped, and exactly how to get there without being seen. "Follow me," he said. They moved through the station like ghosts. Jake led them through maintenance tunnels and emergency passages that he shouldn't have known existed. When they encountered alien patrols, Jake always seemed to know exactly where they would be and how to avoid them. "Captain," Karen said as they crawled through a ventilation shaft, "have you been studying the station plans?" "No," Jake said. "I just know where to go." They reached Section 12 and found Colonel Clark's team trapped in a storage room. Alien soldiers had surrounded the area and were slowly closing in. Jake studied the situation for a moment, then smiled. "I have an idea." 10 minutes later, the alien soldiers found themselves under attack from 6 different directions at once. Jake's team moved like they had trained together for years, even though they were making up their tactics as they went along. The aliens retreated in confusion, and Colonel Clark's team was free. "Morrison, how did you know they would break to the left?" Clark asked as they regrouped. "Lucky guess," Jake said, but it hadn't felt like luck. It had felt like certainty. They made their way to the power core, and Clark's demolition expert, Sergeant Mike Turner, started setting charges. But as he worked, Jake noticed something odd about Turner, too. Turner was moving faster than usual, his hands working on the explosives with perfect precision. When one of the charges wouldn't activate, Turner looked at it for just a moment, then made 3 quick adjustments that Jake was sure the sergeant had never learned in training. "Turner, where did you learn to do that?" Jake asked. Turner looked confused. "I don't know, sir. It just seemed obvious. The charges were set, and the team started moving toward the evacuation points." But as they ran through the corridors, Jake's radio crackled with a priority message. "All human forces, this is Admiral Scott Davis. We've got incoming ships, lots of them." Jake found a window and looked out into space. What he saw made his blood freeze. Hundreds of alien ships were approaching Jupiter, their weapons already charging. "They're not just attacking the base," Karen said. "They're coming for the colonies on the moons, too." Jake thought about the families living on Europa and Ganymede. Thousands of people who had never hurt anyone, who had just wanted to build new lives in space. Something hot and angry started burning in Jake's chest. The aliens wanted to cage humanity, to treat them like dangerous animals. Well, maybe it was time to show them what dangerous really looked like. "All teams, this is Morrison," he said into his radio. "Change of plans. We're not evacuating." "Captain, we have orders to retreat," Clark said. "Orders change," Jake said. His voice was calm, but there was something hard underneath it. "We're going to take out those ships." "Sir, we're a ground team. We don't have space weapons." Jake looked out at the alien fleet, and his mind started working in that strange, clear way again. He could see their formation, their weaknesses, the way they moved through space like they had done this 1,000 times before. "We don't need space weapons," Jake said. "We just need to think like humans." He led his team to the station's cargo bay, where several small transport ships were docked. The ships weren't armed, but they were fast and maneuverable. "Turner, how much explosive do we have left?" Jake asked. Turner checked his pack. "Enough to level a city block." "Good." "Karen, can you pilot one of these transports?" Karen looked at the ships and nodded. "Yes, sir. But what are you planning?" Jake smiled, and for a moment he didn't look. Quite human. "We're going to ram them." "Sir, that's suicide," Clark said. "Not if we do it right," Jake said. "Look at their formation. They're flying like they expect us to retreat or fight from a distance. They're not ready for someone to get close." He started explaining his plan, and as he talked, the other soldiers began to nod. It was crazy, but it might work. More importantly, it felt right. They loaded the transport ships with explosives and prepared for launch. As Jake climbed into the pilot's seat of the lead ship, he felt that strange clarity filling his mind again. "All ships, this is Morrison," he said over the radio. "Remember, we're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to send a message." The transport ships launched from the station just as the alien fleet opened fire. Laser beams lit up space around them. But somehow Jake could see where each shot would go before it was fired. He twisted his ship through the deadly light show, leading his small fleet toward the massive alien vessels. The aliens must have thought the humans were trying to escape, because they didn't change their formation. That was their first mistake. Jake's ship slammed into the lead alien vessel at full speed. The explosives detonated, tearing a hole in the ship's side. Karen's ship hit a second vessel, and Clark's team took out a third. The alien formation broke, apart in confusion. Ships collided with each other as they tried to avoid the suicidal human attacks. Several alien vessels exploded from secondary detonations. Jake ejected from his ship just before impact and used his emergency suit to drift toward the station. As he floated through space, he watched the alien fleet retreat in disorder. "Morrison, are you alive?" came Clark's voice over the radio. "I'm here," Jake said. "Did we lose anyone?" "Turner didn't make it out of his ship," Clark said quietly. "But he took 2 alien cruisers with him." Jake felt sad about Turner, but also proud. The sergeant had died like a human, fighting to the end, refusing to give up. As rescue ships from Jupiter Base came to pick up the survivors, Jake thought about what had happened during the battle. The strange clarity, the way he had known exactly what to do, the feeling that his body was capable of more than it should be. Dr. Foster had been right. Something was changing in humans, something that made them more dangerous than they had ever been before. The aliens had wanted to cage humanity because they were afraid of what humans might become. But their attack had done the opposite. It had started to awaken something that had been sleeping in human DNA for 50,000 years, as Jake was pulled into the rescue ship. He looked back at the wreckage of the alien fleet floating in Jupiter's gravity well. The aliens had won this battle, but they had also learned something important. Humans didn't fight like other species. When threatened, they didn't retreat or surrender. They found a way to hurt their enemies, even if it meant dying in the process. The Galactic Senate had feared humanity before they attacked. Now they had given humans a reason to fight back, and Jake had a feeling that humanity was just getting started. The war had been going on for 6 months when Sergeant Mike Turner opened his eyes and realized he should be dead. He was lying in a medical bay on Luna City, the main human base on Earth's moon. The last thing he remembered was piloting his transport ship into an alien cruiser during the Jupiter base battle. The explosion should have killed him instantly. "You're awake," said a voice beside his bed. Turner turned his head and saw Dr. Mary Foster sitting in a chair, holding a tablet computer. She looked tired but relieved. "Doc, what happened?" Turner asked. His voice was rough, and his throat felt dry. "How am I alive?" Dr. Foster leaned forward. "That's what we've been trying to figure out for the past 3 weeks. You were found floating in space in your emergency suit, unconscious but breathing. You should have died from the explosion, the radiation, and the cold. But you didn't." Turner tried to sit up and was surprised at how strong he felt. 3 weeks? I've been unconscious for 3 weeks? "Your body was healing," Foster said. "Healing from injuries that should have been impossible to survive. We've been monitoring you the whole time." She showed him the tablet, which displayed charts and graphs that Turner didn't understand. "Your DNA has been changing, Mike, the same way it's been changing in other humans who have been in combat." Turner swung his legs over the side of the bed. He felt different, stronger, like his body was running at higher efficiency than before. "What kind of changes?" "Remember what I told Captain Morrison about predecessor genes? Well, they're activating, and combat seems to speed up the process." Dr. Foster stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Turner could see the Earth hanging in space like a blue and white marble, but he could also see the alien ships that surrounded it like angry wasps. "How's the war going?" Turner asked. Foster's face was grim. "Not well. The aliens have us surrounded. They've destroyed most of our outer colonies and cut off our supply lines. But there's something they didn't expect. What's that? We're not fighting like they thought we would. Every battle, every defeat, it's making our people stronger, more adaptive, more dangerous. She turned back to Turner. The aliens study war like it's a science. They have rules, strategies, formations that have worked for thousands of years. But humans don't fight by the rules. Turner nodded. He remembered the Jupiter battle, how Captain Morrison had led them through tactics that shouldn't have worked, but did. We fight to win, not to be polite. Exactly. And it's driving them crazy. They keep sending larger fleets, better weapons, more soldiers. But every time they escalate, humans find a new way to hurt them. Dr. Foster sat back down. Mike, I need to ask you something. During the battle, did you feel different? Like you could do things you shouldn't have been able to do? Turner thought about it. Yeah. When I was setting those charges, I knew exactly what to do even though I'd never seen that type of alien technology before. And when I was piloting the transport, I could see where their shots would go before they fired. That's the predecessor. Genes, Foster said. They give humans enhanced pattern recognition, faster reflexes, better tactical thinking, but there's a cost. What kind of cost? Foster hesitated. The more the genes activate, the more aggressive humans become, not just in combat, but in everything. We're seeing it all over Earth. People are more competitive, more willing to take risks, more likely to solve problems with force instead of negotiation. Turner frowned. That doesn't sound like a bad thing when we're at war. Maybe not. But what happens when the war is over? What happens when humans have all these enhanced abilities but no enemies to fight? Before Turner could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the medical bay. Red lights flashed, and a voice came over the intercom. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Alien forces are attacking Luna City. Turner jumped off the bed and grabbed his uniform from a nearby locker. Doc, where's my weapon? Mike, you just woke up from a 3-week coma. You should stay here. Turner looked at her with eyes that seemed to glow with inner fire. With respect, ma'am, I feel better than I ever have in my life. And there are aliens trying to kill my people. He finished getting dressed and headed for the door. Besides, I think I owe them some payback for that explosion. Turner made his way through Luna City's corridors toward the command center. The base was built inside natural caves in the moon's surface, connected by tunnels that had been carved out over decades. It should have felt like a maze, but Turner found his way easily, like he had lived there his whole life. He reached the command center and found Admiral Scott Davis coordinating the defense. Davis was a veteran of Earth's old wars, with gray hair and steady hands. But even he looked worried as he watched the tactical displays. Turner, you're supposed to be in the medical bay, Davis said without looking away from the screens. I'm feeling better, sir. What's the situation? Davis pointed to the main display, which showed dozens of alien ships approaching Luna City from multiple directions. They're trying to take out our command base. If Luna City falls, Earth's defenses will be cut off from our remaining forces. Turner studied the display. The alien formation looked professional and well coordinated. But as he watched, his mind started working in that strange, clear way again. He could see patterns in their approach, weaknesses in their formation. Admiral, they're making the same mistake they made at Jupiter, Turner said. Davis looked at him. What mistake? They're flying like they expect us to follow the rules of civilized warfare. But we're not civilized anymore. Turner walked to a communications console. "Sir, give me control of the mining ships." "The mining ships?" "Turner, those aren't warships. They're just industrial equipment." Turner smiled, and like Captain Morrison, before him he didn't look quite human for a moment. "That's exactly why they'll work. Luna City had dozens of mining ships designed to dig tunnels and extract minerals from the moon's surface. They weren't armed, but they had powerful cutting beams and heavy armor. More importantly, the aliens wouldn't see them as threats. Turner contacted the mining ship crews and explained his plan. Within minutes, 20 mining vessels launched from Luna City's industrial bays and flew toward the approaching alien fleet. The aliens ignored them at first, focusing their fire on Luna City's military defenses. That was their second mistake. The mining ships spread out and approached the alien vessels from below, where their weapons couldn't easily target them. Then Turner gave the order. "All mining ships, activate cutting beams. Target their engine sections." The industrial cutting beams, designed to slice through solid rock, tore into the alien ships' hulls like they were made of paper. The aliens had shields that could stop military weapons, but they hadn't expected industrial tools to be used as weapons. Half the alien fleet was crippled before they realized what was happening. The surviving ships tried to retreat, but Turner had anticipated that too. "Phase 2, he said into his radio. "Detonate the surface charges." Luna City's mining operations had left thousands of explosive charges buried in the moon's surface around the base. They were meant for breaking up large rocks, but they made excellent mines when detonated at the right moment. The retreating alien ships flew directly into a field of explosions that lit up the lunar surface like fireworks. Most of them were destroyed instantly. The few survivors limped away into space, their formation completely broken. Admiral Davis stared at the tactical display in amazement. "Turner, how did you know that would work?" Turner looked at his hands, watching them shake slightly from adrenaline. "I don't know, sir. It just felt right." But even as he said it, Turner knew it was more than that. The plan hadn't just felt right. It had felt inevitable. Like there was only one way the battle could have gone, and he had simply seen it more clearly than anyone else. Dr. Foster's voice came over the intercom. "Admiral Davis, please report to the medical bay. We have a situation." Davis and Turner made their way back to the medical bay, where they found Foster looking at her computer screens with a mix of excitement and fear. "What is it, Doc?" Davis asked. Foster turned to face them. "I've been monitoring the genetic changes in our combat personnel. The activation of predecessor genes is accelerating rapidly." She pulled up a chart showing genetic markers over time. 3 months ago, humans with high predecessor DNA had about 20% active genes. Now some of them are showing 40% activation. "What does that mean?" Turner asked. "It means humans are becoming something new," Foster said quietly. "Something that hasn't existed for 50,000 years. Davis looked at the chart. "Is that why our people are getting so good at fighting?" "It's not just fighting," Foster said. "Enhanced humans are showing improved abilities in every area. Better problem solving, faster learning, increased physical capabilities, but also increased aggression and territorial behavior." Turner felt a chill run down his spine. "How much more enhanced can we get?" Foster looked back at her screens. "I don't know. The predecessor records don't give us clear limits. But based on what I'm seeing, some humans might reach 60 or 70% activation within the next few months." "And then what happens?" Davis asked. Foster was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Then the aliens will have created exactly what they were trying to prevent. A species with all the abilities of the predecessors, but with 50,000 years of human experience and resentment. Turner looked out the